How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today this video is going to be uploaded on Friday, so you know what that means during the NFL season. It is Fantasy Football Friday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And for Fantasy Football Friday, I'm going to be giving you my full lineup of guys across the NFL landscape that I would have to start if they were all on my fantasy team. So these are the guys, in my opinion, who are must-start players, and they're all not going to be superstar players. I had to mix it up that way just to keep it fresh. And then I have a lineup for all sit-ems. So these are guys that you don't want to start in fantasy. I would hold off on for at least a week because I just don't like the matchup. So we're going to start off with the stardoms, of course. We want to start out hot, and we're going to go to the Seattle Seahawks. And we're going to go to the quarterback position. So for my stardom quarterback, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. Now, he is playing the Cincinnati Bengals in his first game, but he will be at home, home of the 12th man. It's not like they're in a new offense or anything. It's handed off to Chris Carson. But Cincinnati's pass defense last year was one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. And I think Russell Wilson, who is going to be able to run a lot of play-action plays off of Chris Carson's running ability, he's going to be in for a very good day. May not statistically blow people away, but he's going to be very efficient. He's going to get you yards. He's going to get you some touchdowns, and he is going to be a quarterback that will help you win fantasy, but won't hurt your chances to lose this week in fantasy. So my stardom quarterback will be Russell Wilson. Now we go to the running back position, and my RB1 that I must start this week if I were you is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is going to be playing the Atlanta Falcons run defense, which last year was bottom 4th in the league. I think they were like 25th or 27th in run defense, and all they really did to improve upon it was add Tyler Davidson from the New Orleans Saints, who is not a bad run defender, but he's kind of middle of the road. He's not really going to hurt your run defense anymore, but he's really not going to help it a whole lot because he's just not that impactful of a player. He's just a nice body in there that can, take up a lane probably. But Dalvin Cook is bound to explode. Every season he has started out hot. His rookie season, he started out hot. I'm pretty sure last year he got off to a pretty damn good start as well. I could be wrong, but I just have a feeling home opener, crowds on your side, I think Dalvin Cook's the way to go. Now, for my running back number 2 that I would must start, I'm going to go with Mark Ingram. I know he's in a new offense, and it's kind of risky, but it is against the Miami Dolphins, and they're not particularly good on the defensive line. I know they added Christian Wilkins. Okay, one dude is not going to change my mind about which running back to start. I would take Mark Ingram against Miami. It just seems like a safe bet. He may not blow you away. He may not have the biggest of performances, but it's a safe bet that I'm willing to take. Now we move to the wide receiver position, and for my wide receiver number 1, I gotta go with Julian Edelman. This is a guy that I would start. He is facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just don't trust Pittsburgh's secondary, and that's really what it comes down to. And I think Julian Edelman is going to have a pretty productive day. He could see about 8 catches this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up winning a lot of your leagues this week for PPR leagues. And for wide receiver number 2, I am going to go with Mike Williams. He is facing the Indianapolis Colts. I'm pretty sure Kenny Moore is going to get the Keenan Allen assignment because Keenan Allen does play a lot in the slot for the LA Chargers, which means Mike Williams is going to be on an island with Pierre Desir. I know Desir had a pretty solid season last year, but I am going to go with Mike Williams in this matchup. He had a lot of touchdowns last season. He needs to get more yards and more targets. I think this is the year he does it because this will be his second season as a full-time starter. Remember, his rookie season he got hurt, and he got robbed of basically almost the entire season. Now for my tight end. This is the tight end that I would start in fantasy for sure. My biggest stardom at tight end, I'm going to go with David Njoku. He's going to be facing the Tennessee Titans, and truth be told, Tennessee is pretty good up front, and they're pretty good at their linebacking core, but Baker Mayfield targets the tight end position. He did it in college with Mark Andrews. and he's doing it in the NFL with David Njoku. To me, David Njoku is one of the safest bets in fantasy football. He's going to get his production. He's going to get his targets. Yeah, what about Odell? What about Jarvis? What about him? David Njoku is consistent, and I think he's going to have even more improved numbers with those receivers playing next to him, because it's going to open up the game even more for him, adding a dynamic playmaker like OBJ. Now for my flex position, I did go with the wide receiver, and it's going to be Chris Godwin. They're playing the San Francisco 49ers, and we all know Richard Sherman is going to be getting that Mike Evans assignment. I have Mike Evans in fantasy. I ain't really too worried about it, to tell you the truth, because there will be times where Richard Sherman's probably not lined up on Mike Evans. But Chris Godwin's a guy I would definitely start. He's the wide receiver 2 for this team. He's bound to have a breakout season, and I think it starts here against a not-so-great San Francisco 49ers secondary. Now for the defense. I don't know what position I'm going to show off for defense. I guess free safety. But for the defense that I would be starting, it's the Baltimore Ravens defense. I'm going to start the Ravens defense against the Miami Dolphins. I know Ryan Fitzpatrick's there. He could have a magical week 1 performance again and get top 5 in the MVP conversation. Baltimore is one of those defenses that's been very consistent in fantasy football. They get a lot of sacks. They hold opponents to under 20. They can create some turnovers. I just think it's a safe bet. Miami doesn't have much of an offensive line. I think Michael Pierce dominates this game. I think Earl Thomas can get at least 1 interception as well. This is a defense I'd definitely ride out with. And then for the kicker position, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'm not going to be picking Justin Tucker only because I've used a lot of Ravens examples. So we're going to go with, not Will Lutz. Jesus, what team? Okay, I know. We're going to go with Jake Elliott. He is facing the Washington Redskins. I think Philadelphia is going to score a good chunk of points this week. I don't know. I just decided to pick a random kicker. He ended up being the guy that I picked, and we're just going to leave it at that. So now for the sit-ems. It's not going to be Carson Wentz, okay? Don't freak out. My biggest sit-em at quarterback is going to be Big Ben against Pittsburgh. I think there's going to be growing pains with this offense, okay? I know they're probably used to playing without Antonio Brown by now, but he's not there. And Juju's going to be the number 1 guy, and you know the New England Patriots like to take away what you do best and take away your number 1 option. That's Juju. I think Ben's going to be baited a couple of times. I'm not really liking this matchup for Big Ben this week. I think New England's going to come out with a proper game plan. Now at running back number 1, a guy who I would definitely say I'm not really feeling him this game, it's got to be Kenyon Drake. I know a lot of people expect him to have a big year and they think he's underrated, blah, blah, blah. Newsflash, he's not. He's kind of overrated at this point. He's going up against Baltimore's front 7. It's very vicious. They like to attack. And you just traded your best lineman to the Houston Texans. I would not start Kenyon Drake. And I would dare say he's borderline, he's not valuable anymore. For the Philadelphia Eagles, man, we got Jordan Howard right here for our sit-em against Washington. Washington's pretty stout up front, and I don't really know who's going to be the guy for the Eagles this week that blows up and has a big performance. I'm thinking Zach Ertz, and I don't know, Nelson Aguilar. I don't think it's Jordan Howard. I mean, it could be Corey Clement, who, for all we know, it could be Miles Sanders. I'm not really feeling Jordan Howard. I don't really have a good explanation. But at wide receiver, let's see. At wide receiver, we're going to go with Josh Gordon for one of our big sit-ems at wide receiver number 1 against Pittsburgh. A lot of people overdrafted him because they knew he was reinstated. If you expect him to come straight out of suspension and whatnot to all of a sudden being like a main target, you're wrong. I think he's going to be slowly integrated back into the Patriots offense, and eventually he will be worth putting in your starting lineup in these deeper leagues. But for right now, just hold off, man. Let's see what he does against Pittsburgh, and then who knows, maybe next week against Miami he's a must start. But for now, I can't roll the dice with that one. And another wide receiver who I'm not going to roll out with is Robbie Anderson. I think we need to see what he can do. Obviously, we know he's a pretty talented receiver, pretty good. But with Jamison Crowder there and Quincy Enunwa, remember, he started out hot. when he first arrived to the New York Jets. He was getting the most targets. We'll have to see what Robbie Anderson does first against Buffalo, who had the #1 passing defense last year, okay? They allowed the fewest yards passing per game. They didn't have the takeaways, but they just shut you down, period, end of story. I'll have to see how Robbie Anderson does first. For the tight end position, my biggest sit-em is going to be Kyle Rudolph against the Atlanta Falcons. Deion Jones is back. Kyle Rudolph don't want that smoke. I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm not really a huge Kyle Rudolph fan. I think he's a glorified fullback who can't block, really not the greatest catcher. Like, I know obviously Madden says that he has a 96 catch rating. Look at the film, man. Film doesn't lie. I'm not really the biggest fan of his. Let's see, though, at the flex position, we're going to go with another wide receiver. We're going to go to Houston, and we're going to look at, okay, I guess he's not on Houston anymore, or he's not on Houston's roster just yet. We got to go to the Miami Dolphins, but he's not really a Miami Dolphin anymore. Kenny Stills, he's coming over to the Houston Texans. Against New Orleans, I wouldn't play him. I don't know if he's going to be cleared or not. I just wouldn't play him. Yeah, I wouldn't play him. He's coming over to a new team. If he does play, I really wouldn't roll him out there. Will Fuller, I think, is going to take away a lot of his targets. Hopkins, I mean, he's not going to be phased no matter who you put in that receiving core. And Duke Johnson out of the backfield, man, you're playing with a lot of fire right there, Deshaun. And you got a left tackle. I got to tell you, man, I think Kenny Stills is the guy I wouldn't play this week. Let's see how he does first. It's very similar to Josh Gordon. Speaking of defenses, though, I guess we'll go to roster. And then, speaking of defenses, the defense that I am sitting out this week is the New Orleans Saints defense. I'm just going to sit them out. They're playing Houston, of course. I'm just going to sit out the defense, okay? I know they got Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis. I mean, you can name off all the guys they have on defense. I would not start them in fantasy against Houston. Sure, they could get some pressure here and there, but I think Watson's going to have a pretty damn good game on Monday night, and I can't even get my words out. I picked Houston to be my upset of the week, so I just have to be consistent with that by picking against the Saints defense. They're in my sit-ems. And then finally at kicker, it has nothing to do with the kicker being bad or anything. It's just I don't really see this team scoring a lot of points, and that's going to be Adam Vinatieri. I just don't see the Colts scoring a lot of points. Maybe they do upset the LA Chargers, though. I mean, it's very possible, but I just don't see it happening. So with that being said, guys, hopefully you guys enjoy, and good luck to everybody playing fantasy football this weekend. I hope your team crushes it. Unless you're facing me, I hope your team is fucking ass. Have a good day.